Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolyn Stone. I'm a counselor educator here at the University of North Florida. Welcome to the webinar. This webinar is intended to prepare you for your upcoming participation in the White House's College Opportunity Agenda and the First Lady's Reach Higher initiative. UNF, in partnership with the National Consortium for School Counseling and Post-Secondary Success and the Florida Institute of Education, look forward to hosting you at the third White House Convening here in Jacksonville. The dates, November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. I'd like to thank UNF ITS Department, especially Justin Beagle, for the technology support for this webinar. It is my pleasure to introduce Joyce Brown, one of the 8 amazing consortium members who will start the Joyce will start the webinar and introduce her co-presenters.
And please, thank you, Carolyn, and please let me add my voice of welcome to our webinar participants. I am extremely excited today because we are moving toward a historic moment, a moment that will bring together over 35 state teams working collaboratively over a 2.5-day period to engage in a national conversation that accelerates college and career opportunities for all students. The National Consortium of School Counseling for Post-Secondary Success, along with our partners at the University of North Florida and the Florida Institute of Education, are pleased to co-sponsor this third White House convening. We have assembled teams of key state leaders who will engage together to work on an agenda designed to mobilize, measure, and break down silos in order to move forward the work of the First Lady's Reach Higher initiative through focusing on strengthening school counseling and college advising so that more of our students will reach for post-secondary opportunities after high school graduation. I want to start by introducing you to the consortium members whose pictures you will see on the next slide. The National Consortium is a newly formed organization consisting of an amazing group of counseling and college advising professionals who have joined together around a common vision of helping students, especially underserved students, have greater access to college opportunities. I am so honored to work alongside this committed, passionate, and dedicated group of professionals who focus their work on supporting student outcomes.
Please meet the members of the National Consortium for School Counseling and Post-Secondary Success. First, we have Judith Lorimer, Deputy Director, Goddard Riverside Community Center's Option Center; Pat Martin, Educational Consultant and Leader in School Counseling Reform; Jasmine McLeod, Task Counseling Specialist, Baltimore City Schools; Dr. Trish Hatch, Executive Director of CESCAL, Center of Excellence in School Counseling and Leadership at San Diego State University; Dr. Cheryl Holcomb-McCoy, Vice Provost, Faculty Affairs, Johns Hopkins University; Dr. Laura Owen, Assistant Professor in School Counseling, San Diego State University; Dr. Mandy Savage-Romer, Senior Lecturer and Faculty Director, Harvard Graduate School of Education; and I am Joyce Brown, Educational Consultant and retired District Director of School Counseling, Chicago Public Schools.
The next slide will give you more information about our vision of our work as a consortium. The visual that you see at the right shows our 5 focus areas. They are as follows: college and career readiness training that takes place in pre-service and in-service programs, college and career readiness standards and credentialing, practice within schools, policy, and research. These 5 areas all support student-level outcomes, which is a centralized focus of our work. The mission of the consortium is to drive student outcomes that will increase equitable and accessible pathways to post-secondary success for all young people, with an intentional focus on removing systemic barriers for underserved populations. We envision that through school counselor leadership and strategic partnerships, which you see frame the outside circle of our conceptual model, to develop and create an implementation model of systems and structures aligned to standards, training, practice, research, and policy in order to support all young people to successfully access and complete a post-secondary educational opportunity, particularly those from underserved populations. This work is meaningful, and on the next slide, we see the call by our nation's First Lady to strengthen school counseling and college advising. She states, school counseling should not be an extra or luxury just for some school systems that can afford it, but school counseling is a necessity to ensure that all young people get the education they need to succeed in today's economy. On the next slide, we see that the First Lady's initiative supports 4 areas for helping more students reach beyond high school. The overarching goal is to help more students form the foundation to reach beyond high school. And this is why the consortium is excited to support this initiative. We know that the Reach Higher initiative focuses on helping all students understand what they need to complete their education, including exposing them to college and career opportunities, understanding financial aid eligibility that can make college affordability a reality, encouraging academic planning and summer learning opportunities, and most importantly, supporting high school counselors who can help more kids get into college. Partnering with state teams like yours from across the United States will help us to advance these goals. We know that state teams come to us at different levels and different stages of this work, but we are all focused on the same common vision of obtaining measurable results. It's about the programs and the interventions that we will develop together to help all students reach higher. At this time, we want to provide you with a little more background information about the previous convenings, so please let me introduce to you Judy Lorimer, one of our other dynamic consortium members. Judy.
Thanks, Joyce. I'll now take you through a brief history of what brings us today to this webinar and to the 3rd White House Convening on school counseling and college advising. As many of you know, in January 2014, the President, Vice President, and First Lady hosted the first White House College Opportunity Summit, which gathered about 140 college presidents and other leaders to make commitments to support student success. The President called for an ambitious new agenda aimed at improving college value, removing barriers to innovation and completion, and ensuring that student debt remains affordable. Following that first summit, the First Lady announced her Reach Higher initiative, which Joyce just briefly described. There are 4 main goals to it. The first 3 focusing on students, exposing students to opportunities, supporting college affordability, and encouraging academic planning and summer learning opportunities. The 4th, it was around supporting high school counselors to help more kids get into college. The Reach Higher initiative aims to inspire every student in America to take charge of their future and includes those who are most critical to supporting students to get to that future. So based on this last goal of the First Lady's Reach Higher initiative, in May of 2014, on the next slide, the White House held a listening session where they invited leaders from the field to address 3 key considerations as they explored supporting school counselors to help kids go to college. Those 3 considerations were: what challenges and barriers do school counselors face? What resources, support, and training do they need? And how can the college opportunity agenda support the work of school counselors? The group, who came together from across the country, national organizations, school counselors, school counselor educators, nonprofits, and CBOs, gave answers which led to the first White House convening on school counseling. On the next slide, you'll see a brief description of that convening, which was held at the Harvard University School of Education. The convening attracted about 150 leaders from across the country to discuss how best to support school counselors and how to make a difference in the life of young people. Some of the key topics discussed at this convening included training and preparation for school counselors and college advisors, school district partnerships with universities and others, and other ways to support school counselors, including technology. There was a lot of energy generated from this convening, which the White House funneled into its next convening, which it held at San Diego State University, on the next slide, in November of 2014. This convening in San Diego was used as a way to channel the energy coming out of Harvard and to really support organizations and people to make commitments to collaborate to increase college opportunity for all students. So the second White House convening on strengthening school counseling and college advising, was held in November 2014. 33 states brought teams, so 369 individuals attended. And during the two-day convening, teams worked really closely together on their own agendas, learned from each other and learned from experts around 6 key areas of supporting school counselors, including school counselor preparation, training for both school counselors and college advisors, university district partnerships, and school district policies and procedures needed to support school counselors. So coming out of that convening, many states made commitments to large-scale change in their states. For this past year, these states have been working together on credentialing, on training, on district policies, on research, and more. It is now my pleasure to introduce Pat Martin, another member of our consortium, who's going to take us the rest of the way from this state work into what we're planning right now.
Good afternoon. I will take you to the point where we're having the preparation, looking at the agenda, and talking about how that agenda was set up for moving this third convening to a different level and a higher level to reaching goals and helping teams reach their commitments. Next slide, please. Before we started putting together the agenda for this convening, a survey was submitted to the team leaders across the states. And at this point, about 35 to 40 of those team leaders responded to the survey, telling us where they were and updating us about what had been done between November 2014 as we approach November 2015. This slide shows sort of a summary of kinds of statements made by those team leaders about the progress and updating us about the work that they'd done. Many of them talked about they made a commitment at San Diego, but later they had to tweak it, refine it, clarify, and sometimes even broaden or streamline. They talked about the need to gather information to make their commitment realistic and feasible. They had to gather commitment and identify what were the most critical kinds of college and career readiness indicators, trying to figure out what common data sets they would use to measure the work that they were doing and to set their goals. Some people talked about they had developed their action plan at San Diego, but it wasn't really a strong strategic plan, and so they spend time fixing a stronger strategic plan and revising and setting timelines. Some people from San Diego decided they had missing stakeholders that were important to the process, and so they added new members to their teams and new organizations to their teams. 2 states decided to collaborate together and do a bi-state consortium, working as 2 teams working together on reach higher commitment. Other teams had long-term plans where they decided they would commit to infusing the college and career competencies to the preparation of school counselors at the higher ed level. Some committed to developing certificates in college access for college access professionals. Others said they were developing a statewide evaluation of their school counselors so that they would no longer be evaluated with a teacher tool, but with a tool that addressed some of the things they were trying to accomplish in the commitment, the impact areas for college and career readiness, especially for underserved student populations. Others talked about the credentialing that they thought needed to happen for the preparation and training for college and career readiness for school counselors as well as college advisors. Next slide, please. You won't be able to see all of this, but sort of what they asked on the survey was a question about what do you really need to move forward. Some teams found themselves stuck. Some people found themselves in places where they were not moving as rapidly as they wanted to, and some people had a hard time just getting started. So I broke these into the buckets that show the averages of sort of kinds of statements that came in from different teams about what do you need to do the work and to move forward to accelerate your progress. Comments came in under just the teaming and collaboration, how much time it takes, how we have to organize ourselves, and how we have to put egos on hold, and how often it is or how difficult it is to bring team members together to work. And so they talked about means and ways of saying we need help in bringing our teams together if we don't have funding or if we don't have the right technology, and all of the things that they needed to actually just team and collaborate to make the work go. There's a large contingent of remarks about data and metrics. People wanted to set the benchmarks because in the San Diego conference, there was a big push for making sure we talked about measuring what we were doing. So when you made a commitment, you had to know where you started so that if you got there, you know that you had arrived. And the only way you could do that is to have some measures, some metrics that said what we were going to change by doing the work that we were going to put forth on the commitment. And so people had questions about how to access their data. And they said they needed help in gathering it. And then they needed help in talking about sharing data from different organizations. And then they needed people who had to see or observe other people who use data dashboards. So under data and metrics, and even the question of what metrics should we be measuring anyway. There were other comments saying we could get further if we had updates from other states. We'd like to know what they were doing. Evidently, they're going to have been able to get some barriers fixed that maybe others may not have been. They may have had some challenges that we can expect, and they've already gotten through those challenges and can help us in our own plans and the work that we have to do in our state. So they talked about sharing and getting information from others, networking with other teams, and learning from other teams. Under the area of policy and practices, people wanted to know what policies were actually being worked on, what policies in other states had actually passed, how did those policies support them achieving their commitment, what kinds of policies would indeed support that. They talked about licensure and the kind of pre-service training that counselors and college advisors should have, need to have. Can we see what works in other places and what they've done? They talked about standardizing the training and the credentialing for both groups, school counselors, and college advisors. And they talked about the need to know about some particular things like assisting high school students in getting the cost of dual enrollment classes. Many, many comments came back about models for effective practice. Team members want to see where things have been done that are actually working, that net results, and most specifically that net results for underserved student populations. So if you're disaggregating the data for your state and you're looking at the students who are ready and the students who are not ready to move on to post-secondary, you will find that the underserved student population will have a group of young people who need this information in ways that other people won't need it or haven't had the need in the past and are not registered as the largest group of young people who are ready to go on to college. So the best practices areas are not just business as usual. They're talking about best practice areas that will allow them to move this agenda for the underserved population. Next slide, please. To answer these kinds of remarks for technical assistance and to provide the most and make the most out of this experience at the University of North Florida, we're going to focus on 5 areas. The agenda will be shaped so that there will be opportunities for like-role dialogue. People will be able to participate with other people from other states who have the same jobs, positions, affinity groups that they represent and how they work with their team in moving the commitment and moving the agenda. So people in similar work roles will have opportunities during this conference to work together and to outreach and to network with each other. Another focus will be around the technical assistance about how do you get through barriers and challenges to measure your implementation. What structures are needed? What resources will there be to help us break down those barriers? What have other states done to clear the pathway for smooth selling to achieve their commitment? Next slide, please. The third one would be back to team action planning. Teams may have left San Diego with an action plan. And they thought at the time they were in San Diego that plan was the real thing. It was the real deal. It was the silver bullet. When they got back and worked for a year on it, they got more clarity about where they were going and had to revamp and tweak, like they said, on their program. So we will have time during these 2.5 days in Florida to work on face-to-face intentional time to work on your statewide plan and your metrics. Every time we say the word metrics, I want you to put an arrow by it or underline it, because we're talking about this conference being able to help people achieve some concrete metrics from where they started, when they did the work, and where they ended in a better place for getting more students in their state, college, and career ready. Best practices, we're working in that area to make sure that in the plenaries and in team meetings that there are opportunities for people to witness and to get firsthand best practices from other teams who have worked on the same kinds of goals and roles that they have. And last, the fifth one, that will be moving this agenda and levers for change. These are big chunks and complex pieces to move. But when we work together as a plan and a team, we would still be coming back to what policies we need to work on, what research needs to be there in support of the work, what about training and pre-service for people getting a master's degree to go practice in schools as school counselors and college advisors who are working in schools across the country with high school students and middle school students, and what those partnerships would look like if we were talking about higher ed. And then if any of this is aligned and the whole alignment of it so that it actually ends in student outcomes. Next slide. So, in a nutshell, the 2.5 days, day 1 is a full day, day 2 is a full day, day 3 is a half day. We will be focusing on the business of commitment and measurement for day 1. 2 would be how you get the collaborative to work, efficiency, building it, effectiveness, outcomes, and measurement. And moving forward is closure day, excitement, and looking at energizing and getting teams to move forward to actually actualize their action plan. So there will be plenary sessions, there will be roundtable discussions, there will be breakout sessions, and there will be team planning time. And all during that time, experts in the field and from the Department of Education and other places will be there to be as expert helpers to help teams with technical assistance for specific issues that they want to discuss that are relevant to their state or to their team. Next slide. At the end of day 3, not only do we want people to have something down on paper, we want them to be able to describe what post-secondary success looks like. If you can't describe it for your state and your team, you will never know if you got there. And we want to know that our plan is a solid plan to get us to what we envision. And we want to know how we're going to do this work collectively by talking and planning with our team for intentional results. And if we got the right people on our team, who needs to be involved? If we don't have them here with us and everybody couldn't come, this was a limited offer to no more than 8 people from a state. And then finally, the whole big statement of how will you measure it? Now, getting something down on paper does not mean action. It means we have it on paper. So it is not our intentions that these plans and times after you have driven flown across country, met for 2.5 days, that what you plan goes into a drawer and the file that never sees the light of day. We want you to actualize it. We want you to mobilize it. We want you to have a timeline plan. We want you to list who's responsible for those lead components. And we want you to talk about intentionally how we're going to hold ourselves accountable. And in the end, how are we going to report our collective progress to the critical stakeholders in our state? I hope that gives you kind of an idea about what will happen to teams as they participate and become engaged in our Florida initiative. Next slide. I want to turn this over to Joyce to talk about what kinds of things you need to really do if you are a new team. We have more states than we had last time. If you are a new team member on your state's team. Joyce?
Thank you, Pat. And before we get into this slide, giving guidance to new teams and state team members, I want Judy Lorimer to just update us on what her state has been doing. She had a very unique situation. Two states were working together, and they've made some really, really good progress. Judy is on the New York team. So can you join in this conversation now, Judy, and provide us with an update, and then I'll go on to the new team and team member slide.
Sure, Joyce. So here in New York City, New York State and New Jersey, where we at San Diego, we formed a team called the Comprehensive College and Career Counseling Consortium of New York and New Jersey, and have been working for the past year to address 5 goals. One was to build a statewide consortium of stakeholders in both states and then figure out how we would liaise, to identify a common data set of student outcomes, to establish statewide comprehensive college and career training for school counselors and college advisors, to establish follow-up demonstration programs to help foster implementation of training as well as measure outcomes, and to review and or develop credentials in college and career counseling for both school counselors and college advisors. That team was formed last November, and several of the members on that team had been part of the New York State's first school counselor summit in the spring of 2014, in which our New York State Department of Education got together our State Association of School Counselors, our State Association of College Admissions Counseling, and our State Association for School Counselor Educators of Supervision, School Counselor Education and Supervision. So those 4 organizations came together in a summit to review the credentialing of school counselors, to review school counselor education programs, and to review what every student deserved. So this last week, our Board of Regents in New York State reviewed some proposed changes to regulations that committees out of these 4 groups that I just mentioned worked on for over a year. And they didn't vote on them this week, but hopefully they'll vote on them in December. But what the regulation changes that are pending right now would require and provide consistent pre-service preparation and certification of school counselors reflecting the current and future needs of P-12 students, which includes increasing the number of topics that school counselors study, providing consistency among school counselor education programs by providing outlines for providing that everyone had to have 48 credit hours, a 100-hour practicum, a 600-hour internship, establish renewable school counselor certification up to 5 years pending 175 hours of required professional development. In New York State, previous to this, school counselors haven't had to have any professional development to continue to be certified, and provide opportunities for collaboration between school counseling, school building, and district leader candidates as part of the preparation program. So that just on the credentialing and licensure of school counselors. In terms of the pre-service and in-service requirements for school counselors, this proposed regulations recommended that New York State require and provide significant annual professional development for school counselors and building and district leaders to fulfill the implementation and evaluation of comprehensive school counseling programs and school counselors for every P-12 school. So this is new, this new commitment to providing this kind of overall professional development is new for New York State, as well as in the state, the recommendations were that New York State require that every P-12 student have access to a fully implemented comprehensive school counseling program that's standard-based, developmental, data-driven, and integrated with the school's educational program and district priorities. This is huge for New York State because our schools are not required to have comprehensive school counseling programs, that would focus on both college and career as well as social emotional. And finally, in that proposed legislation, we're proposing new communication techniques between our New York State Education Department and building and leaders and school counselors to facilitate this work and to make sure that it's happening. So that is super exciting in terms of regulation changes for us. The consortium itself has attracted over 100 members in the state, and there are currently 3 active committees that are working on furthering the kind of commitments that we hope will be reflected in the newly adopted regulations, including a training committee to look at both pre-service and professional development to make sure we can provided statewide, a competencies committee that's looking really at what do school counselors and college advisors need to be able to know and be able to do, and how do we make sure that even in our newly formed regulations that's in there, and building some kind of infrastructure for college advisors who don't have to come through the same kind of education program as school counselors. And finally, a metrics committee to really nail down the statewide student metrics that we're trying to improve. So that's it, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful update, Judy. It is apparent that the New York team is moving forward and is really, really taking this to the highest level to get at proper implementation and the supports to help all students to reach higher. We are excited about the New York work, and I'm sure the New York team is excited about sharing all their progress at the third convening in Jacksonville. So thank you, Judy, for that report. I do want to say that we understand, I want to highlight this, that state teams have worked at different levels. It is fine, whatever level that you are working on, if you're a beginner, if you've got more advanced work, we want to hear from you. What we do know is this common vision and the passion to help all students will elevate this work across the nation, and that is why we are excited to have state teams come to meet us in Jacksonville. On the screen, you do see guidance for new teams and new team members. We do know that several teams have changed, and so we do have new members joining us, and we're excited about that. We want you to take these steps prior to coming to the convening in Florida, which will help update you and build upon the great work that was started by many of the states last year in San Diego. So we have videos of all the sessions up on the SESCAL website. That website is at the bottom of the screen. So we had pre-reads that teams did before coming to San Diego. Those pre-read materials are still there. Look at all the past links to all the videos to update yourself about the proceedings that happened. We suggest that you go to our website, the National Consortium website, to get more background information on our focus and our anticipated outcomes. Convene your team members, be it Skype or via the phone, video conferencing, or just maybe prior to attending Jacksonville. We found that last year, to our surprise, many of the states, the teams that did come had never had a face-to-face meeting because this was a challenge trying to get everybody together. But if you can in some way convene your team members just to do introductions and to begin to discuss this work, we think that would be very helpful. You should become very familiar with your existing state college and career readiness goals and metrics, if any are out there. This will be the intentional focus. We want states to lead with an action plan to really get at a measurement so that we can know how our work, our structures, our interventions are supporting student outcomes. This is very important as we try to support the President's opportunity agenda and as we position students to reach higher for a better and more robust education beyond high school, be it a 2-year program, a 4-year program, or professional industry certification. What we know is that jobs of the future require something more than high school, and that is why we're focused on student-level outcomes. Finally, we want you to, the teams that did not come and attend last year, to work on drafting a state commitment to use as a working tool for Florida. There's a commitment planning template up on the website so you can take a look at the framework for that, so that last year the teams that came, they all made a commitment to do the work like New York, and they went back and they've been working a year. So the new state teams who did not attend, we would suggest that you gather together and focus on a commitment area around to build your metrics and to advance your college and career readiness work further. Again, state teams will be at different levels. It does not matter. What matters is your commitment to support the vision of helping all of our students to reach higher. the next slide is meant to answer some frequently asked questions. Since sending information out, we have received a lot of questions that you see on this screen. So if you take a look at it, I want you to do two things. Take a look at this list to see if it's a burning question that you have for us, and if it is, and we'll get to it. If you have additional questions, we're going to ask at this time if you will go to your event chat box and begin to type any questions that you need to be addressed that may not be on this frequently asked question list. So we need you to submit your question online and type it in the event chat box. Justin, could you go back to that previous slide, and I will begin to, the team and I will begin to address the questions. The first one is, has my team been approved? All team leads should have received an approval email from me. It was sent on September 17th. What we have learned is that some emails go into spam boxes because of all the security IT things that are on computers. So if you have not received your approval, please check the spam box and then email me at joyce.brown@ncscps.org, and I will be able to help you to ascertain your team approval status. Another frequently asked question is, can I make changes to my team list? Yes. We need you to make those changes by sending in an email to me. In the tagline, write changes, and then send me who you are taking off and who you wish to add. We know that this is a fluid list. The convening is a little over a month away, and we know people have work commitments, and sometimes the list change. But the emails that you sent me for your teams, that you sent in for your teams, those are the lists that are going to be used that the White House is using to issue invitations. And so it's very important that we have the correct emails and the correct team names of the people that you have put on your list to come to Jacksonville. A third question is, why can't previous team members attend? This is a big one. The last convening focused on inviting people across the nation to come in a team and focus on making a commitment to helping students reach higher. This year's convening is focused on getting an actual state plan around a metric. So we envision this work being moved through key decision makers in the state that can make the decisions to get this work going. And so that is the team that was invited to this year. There were specific team roles that were invited. And the teams this year are the leaders who can go back and really make this work happen and put into action a measurement as well as a monitoring plan. But we also see this as a way to broaden the teams. And so we envision as a follow-up to this that states will determine that we will have regional convenings that will join all team members, and additionally, bring in some other people who can help advance this work across a state. For example, already we envision regional convenings across the nation, East Coast, West, North, South, and Midwest, and we're so thrilled that the Michigan NCAN group, under the leadership of Brandy Johnson, has agreed to hold a Midwest Reach Higher convening for the 6 surrounding states to meet and come together. And this regional will enable the teams to come together to work, as well as not be limited by travel and the size of the convening space in Jacksonville. So everyone across the state who wants to participate, we're envisioning expansion by having Reach Higher mini convening groups. If I can't attend, if I don't have a full team of 8, can I still attend? The answer is yes. We envision that the state roles of key decision makers, having breakouts around those role groups will provide really great information for implementation. So in order to advance the work and engage fully, it is advantageous for teams to have enough people to attend the breakout sessions and to fully participate in the planning sessions. However, we are always happy to have participation from all states. So no matter what the number of your team is, we are happy to receive you. What will teams be doing each day? As you heard from Pat Martin, the day will be shaped around plenary sessions, breakout sessions, role group dialogue in order to share best practices and to inform team planning time. We are extremely excited this year to be supported by technical assistance experts from across the United States, as well as the Department of Education and from foundation and people who are doing this work in the field. We are really happy that their expertise will help inform the plans of state teams. What hotels are available? The logistics we know are very important as we try to make plans. So at this time, I want to bring on Carolyn Stone just to give us a really brief snapshot, because when you receive your invitation, when you click on accept, you will also get a link that will enable you to register for hotels in the area. And I can say that Jacksonville, Florida is really, really well equipped to handle the size of our convening participants, and they have lovely venues. Carolyn, at this time, can you just come on and briefly give us an overview of the hotel and a few of the logistics?
Absolutely. Thank you, Joyce. As Joyce said, we have an abundance of hotel rooms here in Jacksonville. We are holding approximately 18 different properties right now, most with special rates that go anywhere from $85 on up to several hundred. What you will get when you get your invitation and you receive this link, you will get the name of the hotel, special rates, how much it cost, how far the hotel is from University of North Florida's University Center, whether or not there's shuttle service from the airport or from the hotel to UNF, whether or not there's breakfast included, all of those particulars that you might need. UNF is very easy to get to from the airport. We are a straight shot off Interstate 295. So you get right on the interstate from the airport, you get right off UNF. So we've clustered our hotels in 3 general areas. Around UNF, also the beaches, because we figure some people might want to turn this into an opportunity to be on the ocean and enjoy great restaurants in the beaches area. We've also put quite a few around the Bay Meadows, Deerwood area, because that's very close to UNF. The hotels range from about a mile and a half, 2 miles away at Town Center. Town Center is a huge shopping complex immediately across the street from UNF. And there's a Homewood Suites in there, so that's the closest one. As far away as the beach, which is roughly 10 to 12 miles. So everything that you need to know about getting from the airport, it's typical taxis, shuttle services, super shuttle, car rentals, and you can conceivably do this by staying at Homewood Suites and shuttling over to UNF every day. So if you don't want to rent a car, it is still possible to do this. But all of that information is in detail for you that will be coming with your invitation.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I'm from the Midwest, and I certainly hope that it's warm in Florida in November because we often see snow. So thank you. We're excited, and the beach sounds really lovely. At this time, we will take any additional questions. Justin, can you go back to the slide that talks about the next slide that talks about the one more slide, please. We want everyone to know that this presentation is going to be archived so that you can tell your other team members. They can listen to audio as well as this PowerPoint will be posted. So the link will be sent out to the team leads, and you can access this information at a later date. I know that I see one question came up, wanted to know where to find the commitment templates, and that will be on the CESCAL website. And the email address is in this presentation, which will be available on the National Consortium for School Counseling and Post-Secondary Success. On our website, we will post this presentation immediately, and we will be downloading this with the audio shortly as well, but you will have access to these slides for future reference. Are there any other questions? I don't see any in the chat event box. And we encourage you to continue to reach out to us. Our contact information is on the screen. If you think about anything, we are excited again about this historical event. And I want to loop in at this time Stephanie Spro. She is with the Reach Higher initiative with the White House. Stephanie, are you there to bring a welcome
I'm
to
here.
our piece? Okay, great.
Well, thank you, Joyce, and thank you all for your participation and especially your partnership. And a very special thank you to the National Consortium and for UNF for convening us all again this fall. We know here in Washington that real change happens at the local level. Secretary Duncan and the President say that all the time. It does not happen here in Washington. And those of you who are on the ground are the ones who will help our students to ultimately reach higher and graduate from high school and then from college. So our previous events in Cambridge and in San Diego have been focused and empowering and have allowed us in Washington greater opportunities to hold up the work that you do every day and also to challenge you and state and local officials to do more for counselors and for students. So we look forward to the work of the state teams in November, knowing that this is one more opportunity to come together to help you and to ultimately help our students. So thank you all for your participation, and we look forward to meeting all of the state teams, and we will see you in Jacksonville.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you for your support of school counseling and college advisors in order to strengthen school counseling and college advising so that more students can reach higher. That ends our presentation. If there are no other questions, we're going to sign off. And again, please feel to reach out to us if you have needs for anything. We are looking forward to working with you, and we are excited about your participation. Have a great day. Thank you.